everyone, welcome back to the Sandbox channel. My name is Meg Kaylee, and today I'm going to talk about a game that has definitely defined me, Dragon Age Origins. So if you're a gamer yourself, you can probably relate to this struggle, but when you're asked to choose a single favorite game of all time, it's really difficult to pick just one. But if I had to do it, it would go to Dragon Age Origins for so many reasons. So I think that this game is really just such a masterpiece, especially for its time, but it's one of those games, those choose your own adventure games, where your decisions really do matter, and you can play through the story so many times because there are always little intricate, quests and things that you can play through again and again and again and get different outcomes, and I love that. I have played the game through, I want to say, somewhere from around like 10 times from the beginning to end, and then I've also had like 15 to 20 characters that I've made. Some of them I've kind of abandoned midway through and such, but I've seen so much of this game and I still find things sometimes that I didn't see before. The main thing that I really love about this game is the story and its characters. All of the characters in this game are so well developed, and as you play through the game, you become really attached to them, which I absolutely love to have in a game. Even side characters, for example, if you play as a Dalish elf, depending on your race and your class, you will have a different origin story. So if you choose the Dalish elf origin story, you meet this character named Tamlin, and if you're playing as a female Dalish elf, you get this really heartfelt and heartbreaking backstory that you don't get as other races and classes. And you meet this character Tamlin, and even he was a character who I became very attached to and really cared about, even though the role that he played in the game was very small and you didn't really even see him that much. I still cared about him and still wanted to protect him and take care of him. And I thought it was really cool that they could build such an attachment between me and a character who's not even in the game that much. All of the characters are different, vastly different, and have great personalities. Even Sten, who is a Qunari, the Qunari in the games are they're very kind of monotone, and they don't have a lot of personality to them for the most part. But even Sten, he really opens up to you throughout the game. You even have this great dialogue with him where he tells you about how he just loves cookies, and he's trying to figure out what they're called because he's not familiar with cookies. And I thought that exchange was very cute, and it really made me smile. And so I was amazed that even a more monotone kind of character could have that kind of dialogue.
You have a thing. It doesn't have a word in the Qunari tongue. Little baked things like bread, but sweet and crumbly. Yes, we have no such things in our lands. This should be remedied.
One of my favorite video game characters of all time, actually a lot of them come from this game, but one of them that I really feel that I've actually learned life lessons from is Wynn. Wynn is a mage in the game, and she kind of serves as almost this grandmotherly figure to the group, and she gives this amazing advice. And there's a couple different dialogues that you have with her in the games that really stuck with me. The first being where she has this whole conversation with you where she tells you, about death and how she's gotten to the point where she's not afraid of death anymore. And she talks about how you shouldn't fear death if you can look back at the life that you've lived and feel that it's enough and that you've been happy throughout your life. And I really loved that perspective. And then she has this other conversation with you where she kind of tries to calm you and tells you, don't worry, things in life fall into place one way or the other, and there's joy in self-sacrifice. Even if you put other people first, their happiness is your happiness because you helped them get it. And I loved that perspective. Of course, there are a lot of really impactful games out there, but this is one of the few where I feel I've really taken bits of advice, especially from Wynn, and fully applied them to my real everyday life, and they've impacted who I am as a person, and I think made me a better person. And I think it's really cool that I was able to get that from a game. I mentioned earlier the decision-making aspects of the game. This is something BioWare is an expert at. I fully believe that. I'm also a huge fan of Mass Effect, and they nail it there as well. But in Dragon Age, everything you do has weight. Even if, you're threatening to punch a priest to get a key, you might think it's all funny to be a jerk, but then you've got Alistair with you, and you wanna romance him, and he gets very upset that you're threatening to punch priests for no reason other than to get a key. And so you kind of have to think about things before you do them, especially depending on who you have with you in your group, because your group members will judge what you're doing based on whether or not they agree with it, and they'll approve or disapprove of it.
Now we threaten priests. How fun!
Whoa, let's not get out of hand here.
What is the meaning of this?
You would threaten me with violence?
You really have to think about what you do, and some decisions are really, really hard, especially as you get near the end of the game. And it was one of those games where immediately when I finished it, I just wanted to replay it right away because I was like, well, what if I do this? And what if I do that differently? There's so many different outcomes, and it's amazing how you can really change the universe and make it your very own by making different decisions. I also love the romances in this game. I really, really love the romances. I'm a big fan of action-adventure stories, but I love when they have romance tied into them, and Dragon Age does this really well. You have several different characters that you can choose to romance. It's like completely up to you, and Alistair is my go-to. He's also one of my favorite video game characters of all time. It was kind of funny because I first played this game in high school, and during that time, a lot of my friends had, you know, pictures of celebrities and band members and stuff that they were like printing out and hanging on their walls. It was like their celebrity crushes, right? I did that with pictures of Alistair. I still have them on my wall up in my bedroom, and I'm totally not ashamed of it because he's great. But I love being able to feel so attached to a character in that way, and I think the romance has really played a part in that for sure. Another thing that I think is amazing is just the super in-depth lore. I have spent so much time reading every single codex entry in this game. I could sit here and talk about Andraste and the Tevinter Imperium and pretty much anything and everything in terms of the Dragon Age universe for a long time because it's so interesting to me. It's so well developed. Everything makes sense. Like, you can tell they put a crazy amount of time and energy into crafting this universe so that it made sense and that everything came together, and I just absolutely love it. I feel like there are so many things in the game that really get you to think. For example, the whole mages versus the chantry debate. If you're unfamiliar, that's basically, you know, mages are very powerful, they're scary, you know, they could become blood mages and abominations, so there's a risk factor with them. And so the whole idea is, in the game, the Chantry, they keep them locked up in the Circle Tower, which is, you know, where all the mages go, the Circle of Magi. They keep them in there so that they can't hurt anybody, and it's all kind of contained. But, you know, there's that whole back and forth of, well, is it fair to lock all of these people up and treat them like animals when it's not their fault that they're mages and not everybody's going to do bad things as a mage? But also it's dangerous to let them roam free, and it's one of those debates where I can really understand both sides. I love how it's not a clear black or white, this is the hero, this is the villain type of situation. It's really up to your opinion, and you really get to think. You sit back and decide for yourself what you think is right. Another thing that I love is the soundtrack. I feel like there are a lot of scores from the soundtrack that, you know, I play them and immediately I feel so much nostalgia. I'll get like teary-eyed because it's just associated with so many great memories, and I absolutely love that. I think the soundtracks are so well done. In Dragon Age, there are so many tear-jerking moments, and I think, again, going back to the decisions, one of the things that makes them so tear-jerking is a lot of the time you have to watch these sad things happen, and you know that they are happening because of a choice you made in the game, so I think that makes it even heavier. But I just love those tear-jerking moments. Maybe it's weird, but I love a story and characters that move me to tears because I am so invested and I really care about the story. I love finding that, and Dragon Age has that so much. I think another reason I really connected with Dragon Age was because the first time I played Origins was during high school, where I was just going through a really rough time in my personal life. I just kind of felt down a lot of the time, and so Dragon Age was a way that I could go home and step into the shoes of a hero, you know, my Grey Warden, and live out their story and impact their story and make it my own story. And it was an amazing way to sort of escape reality for a bit, and I'm so grateful that I had Dragon Age at that point in time. The other thing that's crazy to me is that this is a game I have played so many times, like I mentioned before, and I keep going back. I just recently played Origins a couple of weeks ago for, I don't even know how many times it's been, but I played it again, and it's one of those games I know I'm always going to keep going back to. I've also bought a bunch of copies of it for friends because I wanted them to play it and experience it too. And I'm so grateful that I came across this game. The rest of the games in the series are amazing too. You've got Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. Those are also fantastic and have impacted me as well. I'd say Origins is probably the one that impacted me the most, but the whole entire franchise is just amazing. You should definitely check it out. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe down below for more awesome gaming content here on the Sandbox, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Parshera, here, munch on these if you like.
Ho, cookies!
I am content to part with them if it saves us from this fool.